Have you ever wondered what Bretonnia would look like as a semi-horde faction that can also use the deep roots? No? Well, neither has anyone else, but let's check it out anyway with Leofric's Fellowship. His faction has a strange mix of mechanics borrowed from others, and if I'm being totally honest, is a little bit jank, but we'll roll with it. First and simplest, we have the peasant economy that the rest of Bretonnia have access to. Whilst they can be affected by the changes to their economy caused by the peasant capacity, they are unaffected by any replenishment penalties on their pilgrims and artillery units. This is actually extremely useful despite sounding so niche, as their horde gameplay means they'll often be over their capacity without having to try all that hard. Speaking of which, yes, they're a horde faction with the option to take settlements as normal. Within Leofric's horde, you can build 3 unique landmarks. 2 of these grant you access to a select number of units from the Wood Elves and Nippon, so a Frenchman can finally speak a bit of Nipponese. The third offers a laundry list of bonuses, but only once certain research is completed, so it's actually a completely worthless building to get started. Aside from these landmarks, you have 2 military recruitment buildings that are mutually exclusive, meaning you can only have one of them at a time. You can, however, swap between them, so it's really a golden building slot inconvenience than anything else. The 2 military support buildings offer recruitment or more units along with a range of bonuses, such as chivalry, income, and growth, along with a variety of unit buffs. The defense building offers a large number of bonuses to improve the army in everything from movement range to unit stats. Lastly, we have the infrastructure buildings, which offer more bonuses, both economical and unit related. As hordes go, it's pretty strong, with some odd choices here and there, but we'll cover those more in the review section. If you think about it, hordes in Warhammer 3 really allow characters to show off their depth and allow you to work towards something in the long term aside from relentless expansion. There's constant progression, strategic freedom, and they make for campaigns that are both accessible and deep. I say all of this to point out that when you really think about it, Raid Shadow Legends is not just a sponsor of the video, but also pretty dang similar. In-game, there are hundreds of unique characters to play with, each with their own powers and abilities. You then build teams of these characters and progress through campaigns, dungeons, and even PvP to reach complete mastery. It's all about experimentation and finding the exact playstyle that works for you. So, if you're a fan of this, then you'll probably be a fan of that. Plus, it does help that Raid does all of this whilst looking very pretty and has a bunch of different game modes to choose from and offers enough stuff to do that you can be playing for a very, very long time without things getting old. So, whether you want to liven up your commute or pass the time faster when you're having a dump, Raid is the perfect game to make the minutes fly by. If all of this doesn't convince you, then how's about this? If you download Raid at the link below or the QR code on screen, you will instantly gain access to the legendary Karato Foxhunter champion, and once you reach level 15, you'll also gain access to Uugo, who just so happens to be one of the most valuable champions in the game. And that's not all. You can also pick from one of these 5 legendary champions by using their codes in game. You can only have one, so choose wisely. And if you want my recommendation, it's gotta be Alice, because would you just look at that? So, what are you waiting for? Hit the link below or scan the QR code on screen to hop on Raid and find out what all the fuss is about, and scoop up all of these free bonuses whilst you can. A massive thanks to Raid for sponsoring the video and supporting the channel. Now, back to Leofric. They also have a new section of the tech tree called Relics. From here, you can spend Chivalry to unlock the effects of the Treasure's Tent in the Horde. Pretty simple, but it offers a good way to spend Chivalry since we're dealing with the vanilla version, so it kinda sucks. And the most bizarre addition, this lad can make use of Deep Root's teleportation. To do this, he must first take control of a magical forest, build a World Route entrance, then he can teleport between the forests. It's neat and all, but I am left wondering why, outside of just giving him a way to get around the map, especially since he gets access to none of the other magical forest related mechanics, like forest health or the rituals. I'm not sure if these are planned, but a bunch of placeholders are currently on display, so either remove those or do something with it, because right now, I was worried I'd installed something wrong. And for the last little micro mechanic, this guy's immune to all sea-based attrition, can use sea lanes much faster, and move between land and sea with ease. Although I guess we're just lying about the Mistwalker stance. And lastly, for his army effects, he brings improvements for high-level pilgrims and artillery in his army. And of course, the faction is also bringing a handful of new units. Leofric Carnard is of course our legendary lord. He's a powerful if very straightforward battler. He has very strong melee stats and deals excellent magical armor piercing damage, so can cut through most forms of defense with ease. Plus, with the high armor and defense, he can also keep himself alive against most threats. Get him in the front lines and battling basically anything and he'll do great. If he takes too much heat and needs to heal, just pull him out of melee and have him stand still for a bit, and he'll start to heal and recover his vigor. For his mounts, he has Anor. This gives him a lot more speed along with some armor and charge bonus. He drops a little attack to gain more defense, so won't be quite as effective in combat, but the charging is pretty great, so it all depends on what you prefer. The Pathmakers are our new generic lords, and these are more support focused, but still have some halfway decent non-armor piercing melee power. They come with okay armor, good melee stats and moderate damage, though nothing to get too excited about. Their real power lies with the War Sams, which allow them to empower nearby allies with improved stats, vigor recovery, and even healing. They work best in the middle of your army to cover as many units as possible with their buffs, and you want to prioritize these over any melee fighting, since especially later on, they really won't get a lot done. For the new heroes, we have the Wardens. These are powerful hybrid weapons heroes with excellent potential for both ranged and melee. Melee first, and we're looking at fairly strong attack, and especially defense, alongside fairly respectable armor piercing damage with a bonus versus large. They'll do pretty great versus most regular targets, but will start to get outdamaged once you get some real high power enemies. On the range side of things, they have moderate range, and within that deal excellent armor piercing damage, best used versus single targets. With this, they can snipe massive targets or enemy lords and heroes to make the most of this crazy missile strength. For their mounts, they have the Elven Steed. This gives them more speed and charge bonus, but drops their melee stats. They can now fire on the move a lot more effectively, so if you want to focus on ranged skirmishing, this is the way to go. Otherwise, unmounted is better for sustained melee. The Scholars are ranged focused support heroes with no melee ability to speak of, so I won't. From a range, they deal pretty strong armor piercing damage across a fairly long range, though they do have a flat firing arc, so massive targets will be your best bet for safe shots. Whilst doing this, they can also empower nearby allied ranged units by replenishing their ammo and increasing their stats, along with weakening enemies to fire damage. Moving over to the melee infantry, first up we have the Spears Battle Pilgrims. Compared to the regular Battle Pilgrims, these drop a lot of attack and damage, but do gain a nice chunk of defense, along with charge reflection and defense versus large. This makes them a better line holder, and honestly regular Pilgrims don't deal that much damage anyway, so this is a pretty sweet deal. They can keep enemies back for a decent amount of time, but will absolutely need help for anything to die that isn't them. The Maces and Shields War Pilgrims are basically upgraded defensive battle pilgrims, gaining a tasty boost to defense and armor over the spears, but they do lose out on the charge defense. Against regular sized targets, they'll hold the line for a very long time and deal some very mild damage that drops off significantly when they're against armor. They still need lots of help, so make sure you give it to them. And lastly, the Great Maces War Pilgrims. These drop some defense to gain a little attack, charge bonus, and a slightly more favourable armor piercing split. They're still pretty weak in the damage department, so I'd probably stick to the shields, but to each their own. If you want to max out your army's damage, then these are the way to go. Just be ready to take more casualties, especially against higher damage infantry. And now moving on to the artillery and war machines. First up we have the Scorpions. These artillery pieces are pretty simple to explain, so we're going to rapid fire. This is a fairly early game artillery piece with two choices of ammo that can both be shot over a fairly moderate range. Single shot deals great armor piercing damage, best used versus large targets. Multi-shot lowers the damage per projectile, but launches a whole lot more of them, making it much more effective versus infantry. Both are decent, so just keep them at the back and safe, and you're all set. Ballistas are a fairly standard anti-large bolt-throwing artillery, similar to the bolt thrower from the Dwarves. The damage is actually fairly respectable, so just aim for the biggest target on the enemy side you can, and you can't go wrong. Mangonels I'm a little confused by, since this unit deals less damage than the field trebuchets and has half their range, and the only upside that I can see is that it can hide in forests. So if you want to sneak pot shots at someone from the woods, go for it. However, with range and damage like this, you may as well use archers. They can't all be bangers, I guess. Then we have the War Castle. This is basically a really tall tank. It's extremely tough with very high armor and 360-degree missile block, along with some very respectable defense. Melee damage is not great, with good attack but very middling non-armor piercing damage. From a range, they have a buttload of ammo and deal pretty decent damage with a bonus versus large. They do, however, have a short range, so you have to get them pretty close to deal it. It's a pretty bizarre unit that can do decent on the front lines, taking shots at whatever it can, preferably something large, but beggars can't be choosers. It can also deal some fire damage around itself and empowers nearby allied defense, so is a decent support adjacent unit if you ignore how awkward it is. The Mangonel War Castle swaps the ranged power for something similar to the Mangonel, but with more missile strength. So it's now a slightly awkward artillery piece which is a little bit more manageable. Set it at the back and it'll rack up some decent damage, provided you aim for a big old clump. So this is a bit of a weird faction to talk about since I quite like a lot of what they're doing, but I do have to question why. I like fun takes in existing factions, and Bretonnia has no shortage of those. A horde is always a good time, but also you can take settlements like normal, so why not commit to either one? The peasant economy removing replenishment penalties makes sense, but why does it just feel like a quick solution rather than thinking of a new mechanic? We're instead stuck messing around with something that exists and is also kind of bad. The treasure tent is a cool idea but kind of boring in practice and still uses the same existing crappy chivalry system. And lastly, Deeproos. I don't think I have anything to say other than why. If it makes sense in the lore, that's fine, but it also needs to make sense in game. He still has all of the UI for the magical forest healing and the rituals, so not being able to do anything with that is just a super jarring experience. I want to stress that I think the majority of this campaign works okay, but it does feel very confusing to have so many aspects from existing factions crammed into one, and none of them really feel like they come together to make a whole. Over on the roster side of things, and this is honestly pretty standard, some nice additions to a roster that definitely needs it. They fill gaps and offer some decent variety, even if nothing here is hypercarry material or a must-use unit, so no real complaints. Now, if it seems like I'm being too harsh in this mod, I want to stress that what is here is perfectly playable if you can get your head around the jank. It's a little strange and definitely rough on the edges, but it's still damn impressive to have a custom faction with this many mechanics, even if you quite literally can see the duct tape holding them together. I think it could use a little QA pass, but honestly, I've been saying that about Vanilla Warhammer 3 for years, so I digress. Overall, if you want yet another take on Bretonnia that is unlike anything you've played before, and you can handle a little bit of jank, definitely give the mod a try because it genuinely is quite a lot of fun. Anyway, if you instead want to raise Bretonnia to the ground with the aid of the Beast Fiends, then check out this mod to see how you can do just that.